Welcome everybody to the 2017 Honda CBR500R, and what you see in front of me is my motorcycle. This is what I bought to learn on, to pass my test on, and now I'm at the point where I want to start making bike reviews the same way that I make car reviews. And I'll go into perhaps a little bit of a different story in the future as to why I went out and bought this exact vehicle that you see in front of me. But let's talk about what this bike is. First of all, it's an entry-level beginner class of sport bike. It has a 471cc parallel twin that has 47 horsepower and 32 pound-feet of torque with a wet weight of 420 pounds. Finding the most direct competitor to this CBR, you would be looking at the sub $8,000 if you were going for brand new motorcycles, that is. And it would align itself with the likes of the KTM RC390, the Kawasaki Ninja 400, and the Suzuki Gixxer 600. And as a beginner bike, I think this thing is pretty much flawless. There's only one significant flaw that I have with this motorcycle. But as a sport bike, it really wasn't something I was considering owning for one very specific reason. And that's the ergonomics. Of course, you look at this sport bike or any other sport bike and you wouldn't really expect them to fit a rider comfortably. They're geared for performance, so you have a bit of a forward lean, the pegs are higher up on the bike, and with them having smaller engine displacements, they're physically quite small as well. And that means when I got onto a few of its competitors, the shape of the gas tank was really cutting into my legs, as opposed to this one that really cuts the perfect shape so I can slide my leg in place without feeling that any part of the motorcycle is really impeding on what feels like a very natural riding position. I'm 6'4", my pant inseam is typically 37 inches, so finding clothes is hard enough as it is for me. Getting onto this motorbike where it just naturally felt comfortable and easy was an immediate selling point. The riding dynamics of this bike are really straightforward and easy, and as a beginner you will come to appreciate a few things about it. First of all, the clutch is featherweight light. I can pull it back and hold it in place with just one finger, no problem. And this transmission is a 6-speed manual. It doesn't have the positive neutral finder that the Kawasaki Ninjas will do in their newest models. So finding neutral could be a little tricky at times, and that's what I've discovered in my time riding it. And at the end of the day, a beginner motorcycle is meant to be exactly that. Something that you can build your skills on, build your confidence, and be a better rider on the road. Other things I really like about this motorcycle is that the engine response and the throttle response is immediate. Throttle is very reactive without being too snappy or scary. The biggest drawback I have of this motorcycle, though, relates largely with the engine. First of all, 471cc, parallel twin, doesn't really make that all of exciting of an engine noise, and the exhaust is hardly sonorous either. If I were to do anything to modify this motorcycle, it would put on some kind of slip-on exhaust system to try and give it a little more beefy character. But with a red line of 8,750 RPM, it's hardly a screamer to start off with. What you'll come to notice on the highway with this motorcycle is that sitting at highway speed, 110 kilometers typically here in Canada, just at that 5,000 and 5,500, just that little spread where that speed exists, there's this new engine vibration that comes along that can become quite irritating. If you go on a highway ride that's longer than 20 minutes, your back end will become quite numb, and after 3 hours, if you're like me, you'll want to get off of it with some vigor. The biggest problem with the seat is that it's quite thin, somewhat hard, and really doesn't have all that absorbency or flexibility. So long highway distances, Although you wouldn't really expect that out of a sport bike, you really shouldn't expect it out of this CBR500R. This suspension system actually offers you the chance to change around the compression and the reload for both the front and rear shock absorbers. Pretty cool to find that on a beginner bike, but I honestly haven't even tried to change around the factory setup because as it is, it's perfectly fine. I don't feel like I need it any firmer or any softer. It's got that perfect in-between balance of being hard on a rough bit of road that it could be a little bouncy from time to time, but not intolerable enough that as I drive over this pothole now, it breaks my teeth. So for riding impressions, that's what I think of my Honda CBR500R. Let's now park up so I can share with you a few other details about this bike with the styling and other creature comforts. So with this motorbike, there's a few things that I feel like are worthwhile pointing out with the styling. First of all, the CBR really does have this praying mantis vibe to it. You can see with the very thin and aggressive LED headlights and the way that the wing mirrors are sculpted upwards on these very sturdy uprights. I think overall it's a great looking bike. And where something might irritate some owners, I know it really irritates me, is when there's stickers on the gas tank. And you can see that there are decals, but they're underneath the lacquer, so hopefully that means that over time they won't be scraping away or peeling away the same way that stickers on the plastic fairing could. Outside of that, I don't think everything else is perfect though. The fake carbon fiber looking plastic is a real cheap move to me. I despise it wherever I see it. I would prefer it to just continue being the shiny black or the dull black plastic, of which the rest of the view in front of the handlebars is dominated with. The small TFT screen is small, and I'm sure that people at this price point wouldn't mind having a color display, but quite frankly, you can easily tell your engine speed and your RPMs with a quick glance down. Even if you're tucked down in position and looking through the perspex, it's just a quick bat of the eyes. You don't need a double take to get all of the roadworthy information that you should have at your disposal. Another quick thing to point out with the pillion seat behind me, you can open it up and see that there's enough space to store maybe a set of gloves, the toolkit, and where you'll probably store your insurance. But outside of that, there's not much else I feel like needs to be showed off with this motorbike. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. Please leave your thoughts all down below. This is my first attempt. I'd love to hear your thoughts, where I can improve, and other things that you might want to see or other answers that you'd like to find out about motorcycle reviews. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you again here soon.